Welcome to the Pen Leader Podcast, where strategic leaders get straight to the topics, strengthening our awareness and sharpening our minds. The Pen Leader Podcast is produced by Roar, a production division of Mays & Associates Ltd. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Now here is your award-winning host, Dr. Shanda Gore.
And hello, and welcome back to the Pen Leader Podcast. Today, our wonderful guest is going to be sharing her story in the Getting the Story Out. Her name is Sheila Howard, and she's been working so hard on getting other people's story out that I was excited to actually have the time to talk with her about her own story. Sheila Howard joined the Blade and is a general assignment reporter. She is a multimedia journalist covering several news beats with a passion for health and highlighting issues of underserved communities. She is a recent recipient of the Blade's Eddy Award for significant contribution to the paper. And that's pretty amazing since she's been there only since 2023. She has a career from the finance world. She's worked at the Interfaith Gazette, following her passion there. She is originally from Detroit, Michigan, where she studied journalism and communications at Wayne State University. She holds a bachelor's of science in community development from Central Michigan University. And here's what's so wonderful. She is a wife, a mom, and a Mima to 21 grandchildren. She'll have to tell us, Mima, how she got that name. And she is a church organist and a choir director. So she really gets so much in her time. And just, I'm so excited to have her. Welcome, Sheila.
Thank you for having me, Dr. Gore.
Excellent. So I'm going to start off. What is your passion?
Oh, wow. That should be an easy question, but it's actually a loaded one for me because I have several, which I think is a blessing. My family is, I'm sure, my greatest passion. My immediate family, my husband, my children, my extended family, they make my life worth living. And beyond family, my passions include health and fitness, music, writing, and storytelling.
Mm-hmm. And you've been talking about your own stories. I know you've written 3 books. Can you talk a little bit about that? Because I see that you've focused on weight loss and juicing, and you have a large following. So can you talk about your 3 books?
Absolutely. Health and fitness, as I said, is a huge passion of mine because not long ago I was very unhealthy and very unfit. And my life was stagnated because of it. You know, there's only so much you can do and things you can do and places you can go when you're, when you really can't walk well, I had issues with fitting into things like fitting into chairs, simple things that people take for granted. And I noticed I was starting to avoid even going to certain places because I was nervous I wouldn't fit in the chair or nervous I'd have to climb, too many stairs and that sort of thing. So my life was starting to, my quality of life was starting to become diminished. And when I decided to focus on my fitness, I saw things turn around. And additionally, I was, had some health challenges. I was diagnosed with leukemia and initially told I had a 5-year life expectancy. So that'll wake you up right there.
Yes, it would.
That's enough to wake you up. And with news like that, I was 350 pounds, just very sick, using a cane. I knew I had to do some things to turn some things around. I was blessed to be able to do that. Once that happened, I got treatment for my leukemia, weight loss, delved into fitness and juicing. People asked me a lot of questions over and over, like often the same questions. And I was like, I need to put this on paper. And finally, a few people said, hey, write a book. And I'm like, yeah, I think I will. I love writing. It's my passion. It was kind of like the best of both worlds. You know what I mean? I got to take the thing that I'm passionate about, which is health and fitness and juicing and writing, and marry the two. So my first book was titled Trapped Inside Myself, My Journey Out of Morbid Obesity. So I got to talk about my life, my experience, and also put it down on paper, which was like the best of both worlds.
Yes, of course.
Yeah, it was therapeutic as well. And then I was able to help me and also help others.
So you did your own investigation, because I know you do so much with investigation and bringing stories in underserved communities out. You brought this story to light And it sounds like you had one story in you and then you wrote two more books.
Yeah, yeah. Along my health journey, I was introduced to juicing. In fact, when I was sick, right after my diagnosis, I was pretty devastated. And one of my best friends, Lisa, shipped me a juicer. I didn't know what to do with it. She just wanted me to be, proactive about my health. And I just had this juicer that UPS dropped off. I didn't know what to do with it. I started experimenting. It caused me. I started feeling better just with random juices. I started researching, experimenting with more like intentional juicing, and I would feel so much better. And I would whatever issues I would have, I would investigate what foods, what fruit, vegetables, herbs, roots would target these issues, and I would always feel better. Again, lots of questions from others prompted me to, hey, why don't I just put it on paper? I'm answering the same questions over and over.
Mm-hmm.
And I love writing. So I ended up writing two juicing guides. And my online name is SheJag. And they're called Juicing with SheJag, 1 and 2. So I've been blessed to share my story in the juicing guide. I share my story, my transformation, my juicing transformation, along with lots of recipes, easy recipes for people to follow.
Excellent. I love juicing, and
Yeah.
I'm a member at a local area club, and they've just got a new juicing opportunity, and I can't wait to taste the different types of juices. I think people don't
Yeah.
realize it can, once you start to juice, there's no turning back from what I understand. It's
Absolutely.
becomes a lifestyle. So I'm looking
Yeah.
forward to trying some different kinds of juices. You know what? Getting the story out, it's so very important to be able to understand how to do that. And you do it and you're able to get your own, but you do a great job also, which is why you have this Eddy Award, right? Of getting the story out of others. And I wanted to ask you, tell me how you even got started down this path.
Yeah, so I've always loved writing. It's just been innate. I never really understood why. I just remember in elementary school when the teacher would say, we're doing a book report. For some reason, I would get excited and I would notice other children would kind of roll their eyes. And I'm going like, we get to read a book and then we get to write about it. Like, this is cool. So, so the passion has always been there, even since childhood. I started writing on the elementary school newsletter. It was the elementary school's form of a paper. And a teacher said, hey, you'd be good for, contributing to the newsletter. So I started writing there. Same thing happened in middle school. And then I even got my first reporting assignment where there were issues with some of the classrooms that were cold, and students and teachers were bundled up, and there were a lot of complaints. Nothing seemed to be done about it. So they sent me to go around to talk to the teachers, to talk to the school engineer and ask questions, and then write an article about it for the school paper, about where there's no heat. An article I still have cut out of my scrapbook, might I add. And so I was an investigative reporter, you know,
I'm trying
and
to
it
picture
was
this running around trying to, well, tell me the real story. Why isn't the heat on?
Yeah, yeah. And it was so exciting. And when the article was published, everybody in school was talking about it. And I was like, so I felt, a buzz. And I'm like, this is cool. So I not only get to write, which I love, I get to go gather all of this information and try to get to the bottom line. And once things like that get out there, and I know it's just the school population, things start to change because, the story is out there. So something about that stuck with me, and I continued to write on the high school paper and as well as my college papers.
And that's something said. So you caught the bug very early in age, and it sounds like there were a number of people around you that encouraged you to keep writing. Is that what I'm hearing?
Absolutely. My mother is one of those people. She's the one who told me as a little girl that the word was journalism. I really didn't know that. I just would watch the television anchors and look at the newspaper. And I said, this is what I want to do. I was a small child. And she said, oh, it's called a journalist. And I remember saying, okay, I want to be a journalist. Not fully knowing what that was, but I knew I wanted to be in that world.
Well, journalism has changed over so many years. I was thinking back when I was in college and journalism, and I wrote for newspapers, and I was producing, and I remember, getting sources, getting the facts, right? To make
Hmm.
sure that the story was true. Even that has changed, at least just my observation, but because you're living it, have you noticed a change in how reporting is happening?
Absolutely. With the internet and with all of the social media platforms, any and everybody can be a quote unquote writer. They have the opportunity to get their words out there. Whether the words are true or not, whether the stories pan out or not, is a different story. I think it is important to remember that we need to do our own due diligence. We need to do our own personal fact checking. Yes, this is something as a newspaper writer we do daily. For every story that we write, there's investigation, there's research. You can put a quote, and if someone said something, they said it, yes, but it doesn't necessarily make it true. So there's constant research. There's not just writing the story, it's also researching what was said. So I would always encourage readers to consider the source and then verify the source, check other sources. So it just takes a few more minutes, but there are all kinds of online fact checking tools out there. And some of it is just common sense because some things just don't make good sense.
You think so? That Bigfoot story that I read may not be true. Then it may not be true.
It may not be.
Could be, but not in my backyard. Yes. So here's an interesting part. I think this says quite a bit, not just in journalism, but across the board in industries. If you're a leader and others are looking for you to provide information to the organization or to external partners, clients, or customers, it's really important for you to have that first, that credibility
Hmm.
for the source of the information, but that you've got your own facts together before you even provide information out to the masses. And it
Hmm.
sounds like that's a 3-step process for that being that source, that credible source, and then making sure you're checking your fact and then cross checking it before delivering it.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of missteps in there. I see sometimes people run with information that they have, and when we coach, we discourage leaders from going out until you have all your facts together.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
What advisement would you tell anyone who's looking at doing this field? Because you said it's changed. What would you suggest someone who might be encouraged right now to think about being a journalist?
Well, I would first say just start writing, build a portfolio, whether it's stories about your own personal life, your own personal journey, or just things that are going on in your community or in your world. Start writing. When I first started writing, there was no internet or online or blogs where any and everyone could just write. But so there's an opportunity there that wasn't there some years ago. But just getting your words out there. I would also encourage the main thing I would encourage is to study journalism classes, even if that's not you don't want a degree in journalism or communications, which I would definitely advise. But there are many journalists that I work with that do not have degrees in journalism. They have other degrees, but they're able to use those skills and those trainings in the world of journalism. But even if not, it's still great to take classes that fall in line with communications and journalism. But get your words out there, get your stories out there. Get feedback from seasoned writers. I do it. I haven't been in the professional arena as long as some of my colleagues. I go to them all the time. Can you read this? Please give me some feedback. So they're very, very open to helping. So make sure you get feedback instead of just throwing everything out there. Get a mentor and get the necessary feedback. But the main thing is to get an education, start writing, build a portfolio, have samples, update your resume to show that you are actively writing, because it requires a lot of professional writing, I should say, requires a lot of research and development. So take your time, get your work out there.
What are your thoughts on AI and how artificial intelligence is helping individuals write? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I have mixed feelings about it. On one end, on the positive end, it could be viewed as a source or an inspiration. I remember having a conversation with one of the editors who said similarly, and they let me know I was on the right track because this was a senior editor who said it's use it as a source or it can be used as a source of inspiration because sometimes you'll have a way that you want to say something and you can read an AI version of it and kind of combine the two. I said it this way, but AI suggested it this way. I liked some things the way I said it about how I said it, but I also like the way AI put it. So it can serve as inspiration if you allow it. The downside to me is borders upon plagiarism. I don't know, that might not be the right word, but it's not authentic if you're using AI generated words versus your own. So it's not really your voice. And so that's the part I take issue with. I don't have an issue with getting inspiration from other sources, but sometimes that's part of the research. If I'm writing a story about eggs and cholesterol, I'll go and read other articles about, the pros and cons of eating eggs. And there's some terms that I might find in those articles that I'm going to use in mine, but I'm not going to go verbatim or, you know what I
Yes,
mean, from
yes.
some, plagiarism from someone's. So mixed feelings. I think it can be utilized as a tool, and I just would discourage copying word for word.
I can say for sure that I know AI does help in so many ways, but also AI, people have to remember AI is as good as what's being fed into it.
Mm.
And I play a little game with AI periodically. I'll ask it a question. I'll ask it the same question, or I have Chat GPT. I'll ask a question to see if it's learning from a couple of weeks ago from the prior.
Mm.
And I do notice that it is learning, that it is
Wow.
picking up facts. I encourage anybody to look themselves up in AI, ask AI, who's Sheila Howard, and see if you start to pop up, because over time you will start to be visible to AI and then the facts. I played that game not too long ago and I noticed that they had more facts about me and the kind of work that I do. And I know that you can find out, but those facts have got to be based on a real fact, whatever that
Hmm.
information's provided, because AI is learning and you want to make sure real information about yourself or what you're working on is out there so it can be delivered properly to others. So there's the positive and negatives. I've got to ask you, how did you get the name Mima before we
Uh,
end?
oh, Mima? Mima?
Yes.
Oh, well, like most grandmothers or grandparents typically get their names from the very first grandchild. You may plan your name. Oh, when I'm a grandparent, I'm going to be called this, I'm going to be called that. And my plan was to be called Gma. It sounded cool, Gma. But when the first grandchild was born, she couldn't say Gma. G is not a word, it's not a sound that babies and toddlers can say yet. So
Uh-huh.
she did the best she could, and it came out Mima, because they're
Aw.
good with the M's and the D's, with the mama and the da da. So
That's how you
I
got
be
Mima.
that's how I got Mima. So once she named me that, when the next grandbaby came, they repeated what she said. So 21 grandkids later, I'm still Mima.
And that is the best story right there.
It
Oh,
is.
oh. Well, thank you so much, Sheila, for coming on and sharing your story and then sharing your perspective. And also, too, I'm hoping that leaders will catch some of the pointers that you're giving, especially with fact finding and for them when they're communicating whatever story they need to share with others.
Absolutely. It is crucial.
Thank you. And for our leaders that are out there, please make sure that you share the podcast with others, like it, subscribe, and of course, until next time.
The Pen Leader podcast is hosted by Dr. Shanda Gore and brought to you by Mays & Associates Ltd, creating customized solutions for growth in the areas of leadership development, strategic planning, and culture building. Find out more at www.maysassociatesltd.com. Don't forget to subscribe to the Pen Leader podcast and share with others.